A perfect storm is looming as regards the cost of living. Why is the government increasing national insurance for us all in April?
I have no idea. I voted against it. I said at the time that I thought it was a very foolish thing to do. It will slow the economy too much. And as you said in your introduction, if they allow a general inflation to set in, and then in April you take more money out of people's pay packets and you give them a big hit on the gas bill to keep the home heated, it's not going to be very good news. It's squeezing people too much. I want us to be promoting greater prosperity. I want people to be better off. And we don't want the government making them worse off. There is no need to put that national insurance increase in. Indeed, I think if they put too many tax rises in, they'll end up with less tax revenue than if they go for growth and allow people to keep more money to spend.
Do you get the sense that they might think again about that national insurance tax rise, which after all was a breach of the manifesto promise?
Well, they better. I mean, it's against the manifesto, it's against economic common sense, and it's going to be very unpopular. Three extremely good reasons, government, to listen and think again. I live in hope. If I didn't, I would give up being an MP. One of the points about being an MP is to live in hope of something better and to campaign for it. And I don't think we want a very big tax hit on individuals or businesses this April. We're only just recovering from the dreadful impact of the pandemic measures that they put in. We need to get the economy to a much stronger position. And then, of course, it would generate the tax revenue they need anyway. It's the best way of getting more tax revenue to grow the economy, let people keep more of their own incomes, and then they spend those incomes on goods and services, and that in turn generates more tax revenue. Because if you spend a bit more money because you can afford to go out, the person running the restaurant then pays more tax.
I want to take you back to another promise made by Boris Johnson and Michael Gove. This time they weren't Prime Minister, they weren't Secretary of State for Levelling Up. This was during the referendum when they were key figures in that Leave campaign. On the 30th of May 2016, in that referendum campaign, Boris Johnson and Michael Gove wrote a piece in the Sun newspaper promising to scrap VAT on household energy bills if Britain backed Brexit. Was that a lie?
Well, I hope not. Again, I live in hope. It's another one of the things on my wish list after getting rid of the national insurance proposed rise. And even more of a no-brainer for a government that wants to be super green. Why are we still charging VAT on lots of green measures like boiler controls and better insulation and draft excluder and so forth? Strip all that VAT off, government. If you want to promote people saving money on their energy bills, you need to make it cheaper to insulate better and have better controlled heating systems. So all these things would be reinforcing. I do think there's a tendency in the establishment, the civil service and the advisors of government to still want us to be linked to the EU in a very dramatic way. And because that is an EU tax, they feel they need to keep it in aspect as it was when we had to do it for EU purposes. I want to show that we're free of the EU by getting rid of that on the things where we don't want it. And green products and domestic energy are two prime candidates for showing we're independent and better off.
And when it comes to potentially cutting VAT on fuels, I suspect that your view is the majority view on the Conservative benches. You must all put these views to the Prime Minister. Does it fall on deaf ears?
Well, who knows? We'll find out come the budget, won't we? Or preferably before April, because the clock is ticking on all these things. And if come April, there's a big increase in electricity and gas bills and no reduction in the tax on those bills, the government's going to get even more of the blame. And if they compound that with taking people's money away in national insurance taxes, then the government deserves the blame for making people worse off. So please, government, listen. I will keep on saying it right up until the time when these bills hit people's doormats.
And council tax, rail fares, mortgage payments, food prices rising fastest in a decade. Are these some things that the government can control, or is this some of these things just what the market determines? Can the government intervene in things like council tax rises, rail fares and food prices to help cushion the blow of rising prices?
Well, of course, the government can interfere in everything, although it's not always wise to do so. And if there's an international market pressure making things dearer, things are dearer. And then it's just a question of whether we as consumers pay out of our income direct, or whether they knock some tax off us and offer a subsidy. And the latter is probably clumsier and dearer than some other method. That's why I'm saying the government needs to look at the overall balance between taxation and people's incomes and make sure it's not increasing the rates and the tax burden in a way that promotes growth to therefore make people better off and promote more revenue. The general inflation is a sign that the Bank of England went on printing money for too long. They've only just stopped printing money. I was all in favour of them printing lots of money to offset the pandemic closures, which were a huge shock to the economy. But I think they carried on doing it for a bit too long, so we're getting a bit too much inflation.
And when it comes to COVID, we expect a statement from the Health Secretary to Parliament tomorrow, because they have to review those, some would say, quite minimal restrictions that we face, the work from home guidance, the mandatory mask wearing in enclosed public spaces. We shouldn't expect to see any changes from those tomorrow, should we?
Well, I think I have to say I hope we don't have any changes, because I think the advisors are still wanting to change them for the worse. I of course, would like to get rid of them. I think we now need to trust people and businesses to run their own risks and run their own lives. You've just had a very interesting series of exchanges on schools, and I'm very pleased that at last a point I and others have been making for 2 years is that we need to control and clean air better in enclosed spaces. And I'm glad we're now taking that seriously, because we do need to come together. We do need to go to school or to work, go to an office, go to a leisure establishment indoors. We need more normal life, and it would be safer if all those places have got really good air systems to extract dirty air and or to recycle air using ultraviolet and other cleaners so that it can be virus-free.
John Redwood, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.